What if your obsession with feeling the emotion is actually hurting your acting? Today, we're talking about the difference between feeling something and doing something. And trust me, this one tends to make actors very uncomfortable. This is Casting Actors Cast.
Casting actors, cast what a show. With Jeffrey Dreisbach, we're ready to go. From agents to gigs, learn what you lack. Tune in every week, we're bringing you back.
Well, hello, and welcome back to Casting Actors Cast. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach, and today we're diving into one of the biggest acting traps I see consistently. Actors trying desperately to feel. Now listen, emotion matters. Well, of course it does. But actors sometimes approach emotion like it's a hostage negotiation. Come on, sadness, please arrive before take three. And when the feeling doesn't magically appear, panic. Then we get pushing, forcing, emotional strain, fake intensity, which ironically creates less truthful acting. So, today, I want to discuss a major shift. Stop trying to feel something, start doing something. We're going to get to all of that in just a moment, but first, this is that moment of the podcast where I get to say, I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please check out the website, castingactorscast, all one word.com. You're going to find all kinds of information. You're going to see the books that are available, the course that's available. So all kinds of good stuff there. So please do check that out. Finally, I would love a like, a share. Please write a review. Please help continue to support the podcast because it means the world to me that you're there. I've said this so many times, it's exhausting, I know, but as long as you're there listening and letting me know that you are out there. By the way, on the website, there's a form that says dive into the talent pool. You can leave me a question. You can leave me a subject to maybe cover. I'm happy to do that. But if I know that you're out there, then I am definitely going to continue to share whatever information I can based on my years of experience of doing this. So thank you very much for that. All right, let's talk about this. Let's just talk about feelings in general, because this is what I think. And based on the experience I've had over the years, both as an actor and now in casting, feelings are unreliable. They are, because here's the issue. Human beings do not consistently control emotions, right? If we did, none of us would, oh, I don't know, eat cake at midnight while watching documentaries about failed amusement parks. Come on, you know what I'm talking about. Emotion is unpredictable, but behavior is playable. You may not instantly feel heartbreak, but you can plead, attack, avoid, seduce, pressure, joke, withdraw, guilt, comfort. You see, those are actions, and actions create life. The problem with emotion first acting, and that's what I'm calling it emotional first acting or emotion first acting. It becomes self-focused. The actor begins monitoring themselves. Am I emotional enough? Do I feel it? Did that look real? The performance turns inward, but great acting usually moves outward toward another person. That's where the energy really lives. And here's another thing casting notices immediately. Actors trying to feel often stop listening. Why? Because they're internally monitoring themselves. They're checking, am I emotional enough? Am I connected enough? Is this moment working? That's all going on while you're acting. Meanwhile, the scene partner just changed the entire emotional dynamic, and the actor missed it completely because they were busy watching themselves perform. Now, that's a huge shift. The best actors are not self-watching. They're engaged, they're affected, they're responsive. And honestly, some of the best auditions I've ever seen were not highly emotional. They were deeply needful. There's a difference. What's the difference? Needs creates urgency. Need creates behavior. Need creates unpredictability. And unpredictability feels human. That's why some actors can whisper and still break your heart, because truth does not equal volume. Truth equals investment. Ooh, come on, somebody write that down. That was really good. Truth equals investment. And this becomes incredibly important in self-tapes because the camera is brutally honest. It sees tension, it sees pushing, it sees anticipation, but what it also sees, it sees longing. It sees someone trying desperately to hold themselves together. That's compelling. Stop asking, what emotion should I play? Instead, ask, what am I afraid will happen if I don't get what I need? Now, suddenly the stakes become personal. Now behavior activates. Now the acting becomes alive. And here's the beautiful part. Once the need is real, emotion often arrives on its own. That's true. Unexpectedly, naturally, or sometimes not at all, and that's okay, because truthful acting is not emotional demonstration. It's human pursuit. Now, I've said this before many times, but if you've ever had a teacher that said to you, after you did a workshop or a scene, or you're on stage or in a rehearsal, whatever, but if the director gave you a note and then you did the scene again, incorporating the note, and if the director ever said to you, how did that feel? That's a huge mistake on so many levels. Now, I'm not trying to diss any of your wonderful teachers that have said that to you in the past. I would ask that you keep, when you hear that, you keep that in check. You sort of move it away. And here's the reason why. It's teaching you to watch yourself. It's teaching you to gauge your emotions. And that third eye that is watching you is keeping you from the full expression of your character in the scene. You see, you lose concentration when you're splitting up your attention between what you're doing with the other actor and what you're saying to yourself while you're acting. So please keep that in mind. If you ever hear, how did that feel? I want you in your mind to say, I have no idea. What did you think? Truthfully, I think that that is a big, big deal. I don't like it when actors are being conditioned to do the thing that is opposite of what they need to be doing. But also, let me give you this reality check. This is some real casting room truth. Actors who try hardest to show their emotions are often the least believable. Why? Well, what I just said. They're gauging that emotional roller coaster and gauging their performance based on whether that roller coaster is in a high or in a lull. Why? Because, listen, audiences don't connect to emotional display, I promise you. They don't. They connect to recognizable human behavior. Someone trying to hold themselves together, man, that's interesting. Someone trying desperately not to cry? Interesting. Someone attempting to stay charming while falling apart internally? Oh my gosh, that's very interesting. That tension creates watchable behavior. Need creates action. That's the truth. This idea has become central to how I teach. Instead of what emotion am I playing, I want you to ask, what do I need from the other person? Because once the need becomes clear, action appears naturally. For example, if I desperately need, oh, I don't know, forgiveness, reassurance, validation, connection, approval, I automatically begin behaving. Now we're alive. Now we're not performing emotion, we're pursuing something. We need to talk about playable human behavior, and we will after this brief message. Welcome back. Playable human behavior. That means something that actors can do because actors sometimes use emotional adjectives that literally are impossible to play. Like, for example, be emotional. Okay, what does that even mean? But then when you say, try to stop them from leaving, that's playable. We now have urgency, we have listening, we have reaction. Behavior now becomes dynamic. And honestly, it also removes enormous pressure from actors. You stop chasing emotional perfection. You start engaging another human being. But we also have to talk about the danger of indicating. And one of the most common actor habits is indicating. In other words, showing us the emotion, presenting sadness, demonstrating anger, advertising fear. But real human beings usually try not to reveal themselves. That's where complexity lives. The strongest acting I see often happens when the behavior and the emotion conflict. For example, the person is trying to hide something. The need leaks out accidentally. That's gold. So here's a quick exercise. Take a dramatic scene. I want you to remove all of the emotional intention. Instead, choose one clear action. Examples: convince them, calm them, trap them, comfort them, make them stay. Now I want you to only play the action. And then notice how emotion begins emerging naturally. You see, behavior, then emotion. That's the big difference. Behavior is in front. That then channels emotion. I think this is so interesting, don't you? Because actors often believe emotion creates actions, but many times action creates emotion. And when actors stop trying to manufacture feelings, the work often becomes much more truthful. I can tell you it becomes more spontaneous and more human. Gosh, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach. You've been listening to Casting Actors Cast. I want you to keep working, keep exploring, and stop trying to cry on cue in aisle 7 of your acting class. Your work deserves better than that. See you next time.
From monologues to screen